So chapter 11's mostly about inflation. We're going to be looking at this chapter. What are the different causes of inflation? So why is it that, and here when we talk about inflation, it's clear that we're talking about a general increase in the price of all goods in the economy. Like the consumer price index inflation that we saw in chapter 6. Well, what causes these goods and services to go up in price from year to year by 2% or 5%, 10% or 100%? What's the main cause of this change in prices? So we're going to look at that first, and then we're going to look for a set inflation rate. What are the different costs associated to inflation? And no matter what the inflation rate is, those costs will arise to a certain extent. If the inflation rate is higher, those costs will be greater, and so on. And then we're going to look at inflation targeting, so why we would want to keep inflation within a certain range. So this chapter talks about inflation a lot, but there's also chapter 16, which sadly comes at the end, which kind of creates a cut in inflation. But if you want to learn more about the different costs involved with letting inflation get out of hand, and let's say we're trying to stimulate the economy and we're like, let's just stimulate it a lot, and who cares, it's going to create inflation, it's worth it. Well, we're going to see later on that if we change inflation expectations, it leads to additional costs. So even though we're covering some of the costs here in chapter 11, there's more to it than this, but for the other costs, we need to see a little bit more material first for it to be really clear. So if you're really eager, go to chapter 16 right after. It's quite a short chapter the way I cover it in this class. But overall, this is just going to be a good introduction of where inflation comes from and what are the different costs. Why is inflation not that great to have? And yeah, that's pretty much it.